Oh, you damn right. Recruiting never stops. Let's go recruiting hour. And Jason is on the move this week. He's in Indianapolis covering the Rivals 5-star event. This past weekend was a huge weekend for Texas, including a big commitment that a lot of people didn't see coming last weekend, and maybe including Steve Sarkisian. We will get into that. We will also, as we always do, shout out our sponsor, Longhorn Wealth Management Group. We'll tell you about John and the crew. We've told you John's a proud Texas ex, his wife, 6 siblings, also UT grads. That's why they branded the company Longhorn Wealth Management Group. They're dedicated to providing investment and retirement, insurance and estate planning services and solutions to Longhorn families and friends across the nation for over 30 years. John was so excited about the fantastic finish to those last 3 big recruiting weekends, with Texas landing both the big 4-star Vodney Cleveland and 5-star Richie Wesley is, I believe, what he wants to be called. And with so many recruits moving their decision dates up the calendar, it appears the Longhorn momentum train is definitely picking up speed. To add to the positive momentum, Longhorn Wealth wants to offer all Orange Bloods Live fans the opportunity to take advantage of that free 90-minute private consultation with John. Learn how working with a certified financial planner can help maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and ensure your legacy. You can call John at 972-707-4900 or go online to longhornwealth.net. All right. As I mentioned, the Rivals event's going on. Jason will talk a little bit about that. But the big story last weekend ends up being the commitment of Richie Wesley, the number 1 D-end, I guess number 1 edge player in the Rivals network. He ends up committing to Texas, and Jason ended up getting an interview with him, and we're going to play it for you right now. That's why you check out the Recruiting Hour each and every week. Here's Jason and Richie Wesley.
OrangeBloods.com here with new Texas 5-star defensive end commit Richie Wesley. Richie, just talk about it. Why Texas in the end? Why was it the Longhorns?
I went to Texas, liking them at first, but I came out loving them. The academic and football standpoint, I feel like the best of both worlds. I get to play for the SEC, get to play dogs every single game, get to really show NFL scouts, that I'm a good player, but also get to walk out with a great degree, and, God forbid I get hurt or anything, I still have that degree, have a good, successful life.
I think you mentioned to me in the phone interview you want to study engineering. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. How much did they get to show you kind of the academic side of it and everything on your official visit?
Yeah, they really showed me a lot about it. They really said that engineering is a very hard, subject or thing to major in. But they also told me that, there's some aspects of engineering that I could pursue as well while being a student athlete there at Texas. And, just basically saying that if you come here, you're going to be set up for life.
And you reclassified, and then you're still going to graduate a semester early. So essentially a year and a half early, right?
Yeah.
I mean, where does the academic drive, and that shows you're putting in the work, where does the academic drive come from?
Man, I got to do 7 online classes, before December. And, I've been just, grinding, with the help of some people. But, it really does take a toll, mentally. But, I'm locked in, and I'm really set on my goal, to make it to college, simply get to the league.
You said you have 7 more to do before?
No, I already completed 7.
Oh, you've done 7.
I did 5. I got 2 more.
2 more to go. Okay,
Yeah.
good for you. When did it start to hit you? I know you visited in the spring, early in the spring. I think you told me maybe about midway through this official visit. But when did it start to really hit you and kind of settle in that you were going to shut this down?
Like after the academic standpoint, I already know that all my top schools that we're going to visit, Oregon, Ohio State, and Texas A&M. They're just great football programs. They really have a good, system. But it was one thing missing is the academic standpoint. Not to downgrade, all the other academic standpoints of other schools, but I just feel like walking out with a Texas degree, and all the connections they have, and all, everything they have over there. I just feel like that was a cherry on top, and reason why I committed.
Take me through the actual commitment when you tell Coach Sark, Coach Alan Clark. How'd that go down? What was their response?
Yeah, so I went up to Sark's room. We were at the hotel, went up to Sark's room and sat down with him. He's like, "What's going on, man?" Blah blah blah. Like committed. He was like silent for a little bit. He was like yeah. So that was cool. And then I didn't tell Clark personally, but someone else told Clark. And he had a meeting right after Sark. And I sat down with Clark, and he was just like lost for words. He was like he was saying his little presentation, and it like stopped like low-key stuttering a little bit. Like it's like, you know, it's a great thing for him. I'm his first guy off the board. You know, his first recruiting class. So, you know, it was a good feeling.
I talked to you on the phone shortly after you announced it. You said, "Hey, I'm 100, I'm 1,000% committed." You know, you're 24 hours removed. Just put it in your words so people can see it. How solid are you? How happy to have this decision out of the way?
Yeah, I'm not going nowhere else. I'm going to Texas this January. I'm going to shut down. I already spoke to other schools that are recruiting me, and they completely understand. And just, yeah, I'm a Longhorn.
Good to see you, Richie. Thank you for the time. 5-star commitment, Richie Wesley, future Texas Longhorn.
There you have it. Longhorn, one of the big Longhorn commitments in this class, one of the biggest Longhorn commits ever, depending on how you want to rank things. Jason, great stuff there with Wesley. Talk about what it was like to grab that interview with him. What kind of kid was he for you? How did he come across?
Awesome kid. And I've talked to him a couple times before. High profile player, doesn't do a ton of interviews. Okay. But I've been fortunate enough to get him on the phone. I actually talked to him, seriously, I think like 30 minutes after he announced his commitment. I got him on the phone on Sunday, and then I got him on that video you just watched up here in Indianapolis. Really impressive kid. First off, the first time I saw him in person in Austin was back in, I think, March or something. I don't remember. And he came in, and I just met him briefly. Today, I got to really kind of just size him up, so to speak. And I mean, he is an impressive physical specimen. And you got to remember, Chad, this is a guy who reclassified. So he should only be going into his junior year of high school. He looks like an NFL player right now, okay? And he's graduating, you heard in the video, he's graduating early, meaning he's graduating a year and a half early. I'm going to graduate in December. But just an impressive kid, talks about academics and really means it. You know, I know people talked about his commitment to Oregon and that being short-lived, and maybe he jumped into it. He probably did, and jumped into the pool that people talked about. But I'm just really impressed with Richie Wesley. I'm a fan. I got to talk to his dad a little bit. Comes from a very athletic family. He's got an uncle that's 6'11", another, I think, an aunt who played, I believe, in the WNBA, if I'm not mistaken. So very athletic family, impressive young man physically. I mean, you watched him at the Rivals 5-star check-in this week, and I did. I'm like, okay, a lot of good-looking kids, best kids in the country. Richie Wesley's up there with any of them, but also impressive just in character for such a young man. I'm a big fan of Richie Wesley, and I got to say, this is kind of a funny. I like to throw in these funny anecdotes, or I think it's funny. Top of the show, he said, "Recruiting never stops," right? And Chad, you haven't even heard this, but let me tell you how this Richie Wesley thing goes down. Or let me tell you how my Sunday goes down. So Sunday just was my daughter's 14th birthday. Okay, well, I want to be around my daughter, but I had to go to the airport to get interviews from these players that are leaving, right? So, and then I was going to fly out at 7:30 to Indianapolis Sunday night. So I was just going to stay at the airport all night and fly out to Indianapolis. Well, I got my interviews done at about 2:00 down at the airport. And I said, I'm going to surprise my daughter and drive home and see her for like an hour and a half, and then turn around and drive back to the airport. It's about 35 minutes each way. I get home. I take a quick shower. I surprise my daughter. Hey, and I brought her flowers. Hey, honey, happy birthday. Because she didn't think she was going to see me at all on her birthday. I gave her flowers. And I said, okay, I'm going to go take a quick shower, and then we're going to hang out for a little bit. And I have to go to the airport. I'm in the shower. I get out of the shower, dripping wet. Nobody needs that visualization, but that's the truth. And then ping, Richie Wesley commits. I'm like, oh my gosh, dude. So I had to like dry off, throw my clothes on as quick as I can. Like, sorry, honey, happy birthday, but Dad's got to go to work on the computer. And as soon as I finish that, off to the airport, fly to Indianapolis. But I got Richie Wesley to talk to him today. So when you said that at the top of the show, recruiting never stops, I want people to understand recruiting never stops. We are in a dead period, and I am going to cherish every minute of downtime in this dead period that I can get. We're going to have a lot of commitments over the next couple of weeks we'll be reporting on, but I won't be having to go to the airport or going down to campus and doing those type camps and those kinds of things. So the timing of Richie Wesley's commitment was interesting, but I was still fortunate enough to get him on the phone shortly after he committed, and then obviously get the video from up here in Indianapolis. So I feel like it's been a pretty productive week on the Richie Wesley front.
Hey, Father of the Year. Like somebody put on the Orange Bloods message board, your daughter's going to have another birthday next year. These 5 stars are about right now.
they're like, or you can have another daughter. I'm like, well, I do have 2 other daughters. That's true. But, I wanted to give her a few minutes on her birthday, but I'll figure something out when I get back home this week. I'll take her to dinner or something. So
that is crazy. Obviously, huge news for Texas there with Richie Wesley, a guy we had talked about on the recruiting hour. So if you'd watch the recruiting hour, you'd know that name. And one of the big names that ends up now in the 2026 class, also a guy that, as we've heard, has mentioned Alan Clark's name. Shout out to Coach Clark for getting a little love from Mr. Wesley. All right, Jason, let's talk about some of these other guys that were in last weekend, and some of them that were in last weekend. Maybe there's a name or two we'll mention that maybe wasn't at Texas, but is definitely on the radar. But let's start with Chase Calicut.
Yeah.
Let's go back in state. Talk about the kid from North Shore here. I know he was in. We've talked about him plenty on this show. How did everything go for Chase, and what does the timeline is coming up pretty quick here, right, for a decision?
This Friday, so 2 days from today. So
yeah.
Chase is another guy. Took his official visit to Texas last weekend. I actually interviewed him on the phone Sunday as he was on his way home, and then I saw him up here in Indy. I did not do a video interview with Chase. I probably could have. He's a really good interview. It's funny, going back to Richie, I kind of jokingly told Richie, I don't ever do video interviews, Richie Wesley. I said, you're probably going to be maybe the first that I can remember. And but he's such a good interview. I hope people enjoyed the interview that I thought he'd be a good one to start with.
Mm-hmm.
But Chase, I talked to him on Sunday, talked to him on Monday up here in Indianapolis, and I'm going to say this, okay? I feel really good about Texas's chances. After talking to him on Sunday and Monday, I would have put it at 99%. That I think he's going to commit to Texas. It's Texas, it's Georgia, it's Michigan. I don't think Michigan's really a factor based on the things I'm hearing. I would have put 99% Texas commitment. But Chase is throwing some smoke screens up here in Indianapolis.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, like giving people from Georgia maybe reason to think maybe Georgia might be the pick, okay? Maybe whispering sweet nothings in Georgia reporters' ears. So we'll see with Chase. I mean, I just think the North Shore connection with Mark Orfe, Dwayne Aquina being the safeties coach, he likes that. Proximity does matter to Chase. He's close with his family. I think it's going to be Texas, Chad, but I just heard enough, like literally a couple hours ago, up here in Indy to give me just a shadow of a doubt. And now I'm doubting my own information in my own conversations with Chase, because he's clearly lying to somebody, because he's told me one thing, he's told other reporters another thing. So, we'll see. Gamesmanship of a teenager, but I still think Texas is in a great spot for Chase Calicut. I think my future cast is on Texas. Let me double check that real quick. I don't know if it is actually, but I'm going to put it on Texas, and we'll see. I mean, no, it already is on Texas. I'm sorry.
Okay.
The whole Georgia thing is a little bit. It'll add a little bit of mystery. But yeah, he is going to announce on Friday, so we'll have our answer very soon.
Interesting. Well, Jason, they say DBs are supposed to have a short memory. Calicut's just practicing short memory over here, short memory over here, just keeping it moving.
And he's a fun kid too, man. Chase is like, when you talk to him, he's got a great personality. I may try to get him on video tomorrow, and we can backlog that after he commits or something. But he's a guy that he's smart. Okay. He's very personable. So him kind of drumming up the Spence isn't the biggest surprise in the world, but yeah, short memory. And, maybe you got to have a little bit of personality, a little bit of attitude to be kind of like a wide receiver and a DB. You got to be confident. Yeah. Chase has that confidence. He has that swagger for sure.
There you go. All right. We'll stay on the defensive side of the ball. Jason, we've talked about Kosi Okpala before, big-time linebacker. I believe this takes us back out of state for Kosi.
He's in state.
He's in state?
Yeah, he's Beatty Creek down in Houston. Yep.
My bad. Okay, I was mixing him up with another linebacker. Maybe
Tyler Atkinson.
Tyler Atkinson, who's out. Okay, we'll get to Tyler. Yeah, yes. So Okpala, another in-state guy, big-time linebacker. Where does this one stand? How did he enjoy Austin?
Loved it. And Kosi is not here in Indianapolis, but I was able to get him on the phone Sunday after his Texas visit. He just returned back to the Houston area. Loved his Texas visit. Loved the time with the coaches, how they would use him. They say, hey, we think you're a versatile linebacker, versatile defender. Maybe you can even do some edge things for us in situations, but they feel like they have a plan to get him on the field early. Kosi's down to a top 4. He's got Texas. He's got Baylor. He's got Penn State. And I'm going to draw a blank on the fourth one. If I can surf here. Texas, Baylor, Penn State. Oh, Miami. There it is. Miami is the fourth one. I've said this before. I really do think he fancies Penn State. I think he likes Penn State quite a bit. Baylor being an in-state threat, Chad, I don't think it matters in the end. I think Kosi Okpala is going to be a Texas Longhorn. I feel very confident about that. When I talked to Kosi, he didn't want to tip his hand. He said, hey, I'm still kind of it's those four, but he kind of also insinuated that his mind has been made up. Just grapevine chatter that I've heard is that his mind is made up and that it looks good for Texas. We're waiting on him to announce a commitment date, so that could happen anytime soon. But I think it'll happen. I think a commitment happens in the next couple of weeks, possibly even sometimes this week, but maybe the first week of July. I think Texas looks really good for Kosi Okpala, probably to be the only in-state linebacker, true linebacker in this Texas class.
Interesting. So we'll look for the announcement there. Again, Calicut coming up this Friday, but no official word on Okpala yet. But keep it right here on the Recruiting Hour, and definitely check out orangebloods.com for the very latest information. Let me throw you a QR code real quick if you're not signed up. Perfect time to do it. Get signed up with orangebloods.com for all the recruiting information, including Jason's 321 article each and every week that'll get you all kinds of good recruiting stuff. All right, Jason, let's try Kendall Gerville.
That's how I've always said it.
Yeah,
of course, okay. I just called him Kendall. I left the hard part out.
There you go. But if it's good, it's good though. I think we're talking about a big D tackle here, right? So. Yeah. The Gur, I think, is appropriate. Like, let's make it sound as mean as possible. Gerville with Kendall here. Out of the state of Florida, what do we need to know here?
Yeah, Kendall, I wrote about him in my 321, and I said he's not really a poker player when it comes to his recruitment. Okay, Chad, he's been pretty open. Yeah, Texas is my team to beat. Texas is my leader. He officially has a top four. I think it's off the top of my head, it's Texas. It's Florida, I think Georgia, and maybe Florida State is that fourth team. I don't have my notes in front of me. I'm sorry. I apologize. I know I should know that, but literally I've talked to so many people, so many recruits over the last 48 hours. Some of them start to blend together. But it's kind of Texas and Florida, to be honest with you. The other two don't really matter. But he's, like I said, he doesn't play poker very well. He's very open. Hey, Texas is my leader. I talked to him on Sunday coming out of his Texas official visit. I said, hey, Kendall, you've been pretty open that Texas was your leader coming into this visit. I said, where do things stand now? Man, he broke out, Chad. He was grinning ear to ear. And he's like, still number one. Yeah. And here's all you need to know about Kendall. Okay, Texas was the leader coming in. He had a great visit. Texas continues to be the leader. He was going to not decide until December. This is a guy who wanted to take it all the way to the end. Now midway through his Texas visit, he put on social media, I'm going to go ahead and commit on July 2nd. So while he's on his Texas visit, Texas is his leader. He's going to commit July 2nd. So I think you can pretty much put that one down in ink. It's another big defensive tackle commitment. That gives Texas 4, and I think that's probably why he wanted to move it up because, hey, man, spots are going to start running out. Especially on the defensive line, the way things are going. So Kendall really likes Texas. I think he wants to secure his spot. So July 2nd is his new announcement date. And we'll certainly have a Texas story written and ready. I'd be shocked if that one went anywhere other than Texas. Florida's a factor there. Recruiting's crazy. It can always take last-minute turns. But as we sit here and talk, Texas is in a great spot.
See, Jason, there's all different kinds of kids. You were talking about Calicut earlier, playing the drama up a little bit, but Kendall's probably a little more like me. I don't play poker for a lot of reasons. One of them is I'm a horrible poker face guy. I don't lie well. I don't keep secrets well.
You like to keep your money in your own pocket? Yeah.
It all lives right here. Everyone would know. Trust me, if I got pocket kings, the whole world would know instantly. So
you like jump up and run around the room a couple times.
Exactly. Yeah. Kendall, I totally get it. And that when I read your notes on it with the smile ear to ear, that's a cool thought for a guy that, hey man, if you dig it that much, that's very cool. And it does sound like with the movement of the decision day that he really enjoyed his time in Austin. So that's big news if you're a Texas fan there for Kendall Gerville. In terms of, we've talked about him, I know a little bit, Jason, on the show, in terms of a kind of rivals ranking and what level player we're talking about here? How high up is Kendall?
He's a 4-star guy. He is outside of the rivals 250, so I can't really give you a kind of a scale there, but he is a 4-star guy, mid 4-star guy. And he's funny. He, when I was talking to him, he gave us an updated height and weight, and he said he was 6'5", I believe it was. Yeah, 320 or 325. Well, he was about played at about 290, 295, maybe close to 300. He said, yeah, he goes, man, I've gained a lot of weight this summer. And I go, hey, man, you're going on all these official visits. They feed you and treat you like a king and feed you amazing food. I go, you know what? I said, Kendall, he was kind of bummed out. He goes, I'll lose the weight. But he goes, I said, Kendall, I'd be disappointed if he didn't gain 20 pounds going on these official visits. If you go on official visits and you lose weight, that's a problem. So he is up to about 325 pounds on a 6'5" frame, but he wants to kind of tighten it up a little bit, and he will. But yeah, to answer your question, he's a 4-star guy just outside the rivals 250.
Hey, D-tackle on a visit. Come on now.
He's going to eat a bunch of food and enjoy life, and he should. Yeah.
I don't know that you're not. You'll forgive that. You'll forgive that a little bit. So we'll see what happens with Kendall Gerville. July 2nd is now his updated commit date. That sounds like big news and big good news for Texas. Speaking of big, how about two more big names in this week's recruiting hour? Tyler Atkinson and Felix Ojo. We'll get the updates from Jason on both of those guys after we tell you once again about Longhorn Wealth Management Group and what John and the crew can do for you. And again, John is a proud UT alum. In fact, he served for 15 years in that Dallas, Texas X's chapter as a board member. He's now helping lead out the build out in Collin County. If you live in Collin County and you want to get involved, just shoot John an email. He'll get you added to the chapter email list for all upcoming Texas X's events. And with this past weekend, those new commitments received from Vodney Cleveland and Richie Wesley, Texas is moving into the top 10 and the On3 composite team rankings. John's thrilled about that, obviously. And with so many upcoming commitments to be decided in just the next couple weeks, it's looking really positive for the Longhorns to finish with, guess what? Another top 5 class. You know John loves that. All you do too. John wants to make sure that wants to make his commitment rather to you and help all Orange Bloods Live fans, offering you that free 90-minute private consultation. Learn how working with a certified financial planner like John can help you build and manage your own financial future and discover how you can truly maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and ensure your legacy. Take advantage of the free 90-minute consultation. Call John at 972-707-4900 or go online to longhornwealth.net. John and the crew send along a big hook'em to everybody. All right, 2 more big names to hit. Jason, Tyler Atkinson, a name we have talked about. And as of last week, I know Longhorn fans were talking about one former Texas linebacker that he's been connected to in terms of working out. Now I'm reading about a current Texas linebacker that he seems to be, getting pretty close to. So give me the update here. How good could this news be for Texas?
Yeah, you got a better memory than me, Chad. Did we talk about Tyler on the recruiting hour last week? Because I can't remember what day of the week it came out that he was going to visit Texas. So
I think maybe we did.
If we did, I'm going to double up just to be safe. But yeah, he has been in Austin this summer training with Derek Johnson, okay, in the Austin area. I'm not exactly sure where, but he's pretty much been living in Austin. And he was supposed to visit Ohio State last weekend, okay? But he changed that up and said, I'm going to go ahead and take this Texas official visit. He's also connected to Anthony Hill. Those two have gotten close. That's kind of how he got hooked up with DJ to work out with him. But, yeah, Tyler Atkinson, the number 1 linebacker in the country out of Loganville Grayson Powerhouse program in Georgia. He's very, I don't say guarded, but he just, he doesn't. He's a smart kid. He doesn't want to tip his hand, but he's still, considering a few different schools. Georgia's in there, Texas is in there, Clemson's in there, Oregon's a strong player. I think those are your top 4. Nobody I've talked to has a great read on how this is going to fall, okay? You hear a kid from Georgia, you kind of think, okay, he's probably going to go to Georgia. But like I said, he's been living in Austin for the better part of a month or over a month probably. He did enjoy the visit a lot. They're like, hey, we want you to be the quarterback of our defense. We're going to use you in so many different ways and just make you be a superstar. Now, here's the deal. Like most of these, NIL is going to play a big part. Okay. I talked to some Georgia people, and they're not sure Georgia is going to put the kind of offer on the table that maybe a school like Oregon or Texas or some of these others, maybe Clemson, maybe even Ohio State, even though he did not official visit there. I'm telling you, Chad, if he doesn't go to Georgia, and if Georgia, I don't say lowballs him in NIL, because I'm sure he'll get an attractive offer, but if it's lower than some of these other schools, I think Texas might get Tyler Atkinson, the #1 linebacker in the country. Okay, that's how I maybe see this thing unfolding. So, Texas would have to dig deep. They have to dig deep, but we've seen them. Texas can do that for a extremely high-profile guy. People think Texas just has unlimited money. They just throw money around. They're going to give the biggest offer to every player. No, that's not true. That's just not true at all. But if Texas has 1 or 2 guys they target and they say, okay, we're going to be ultra aggressive with these 1 or 2 guys, maybe 3 guys in a class, then they can do that. Okay. And I think Tyler Atkinson could be one of those guys, especially if Georgia says, okay, here's where we're capping our stuff at. Well, maybe Texas comes in and says, hey, we're going to go a little bit above that. You love the city of Austin. You love the contacts you've made here. You love the way you fit in our scheme. You love the coaches, the players on the team. He would be a good culture fit. He's a high character young man. So I don't know. I'm watching this one very, very closely, Chad. I think Texas has a real shot, a sneaky shot to pull another 5-star player out of Georgia, just like they did last year with Justice Terry.
Yeah, man, that one could be wild. Okay, a few things, Jason. First off, to Georgia, I would take that low ball offer if they want to throw it my way. I would be glad to take the Georgia low ball offer.
If Tyler doesn't accept it, you'll take it.
If Tyler doesn't accept it, I'd be glad to, Kirby, if you're out there. But in terms of what you just brought up, I think, we're always talking about these guys that might be the out-of-state guys that may have some Texas connection. You're looking for something that might draw you in. Obviously, like you said, NIL is a big deal, but it's kind of rare to hear about this where there's a Georgia guy but spending that much time in Austin, hanging with Derek Johnson. You're training with one of the best linebackers that's ever played at the school and went on to a stellar NFL career and just all the things that is. And maybe it ends up, like you said, maybe he ends up wearing red and black, but just feels like a guy that certainly would know what it feels like to be in Austin. It's not like he just comes in and leaves. So Texas it feels like Texas has a special connection there, which is more than they would have had. I don't think they had that kind of thing with Justice Terry, but to have this with Tyler Atkinson could be a big deal.
There's some familiarity there. Now, Justice Terry did take an official visit, and Tyler's visited Texas, I think, twice before his official visit, if I'm not mistaken. I know for sure once, I think twice on unofficial visits. I will say, though, even though he's been in the Austin area training, that official visit last weekend was his first time going to the UT campus. He hadn't gone up there and met with the coaches or anything. So he's been in Austin training, getting a taste of Austin, like you said, Chad, and that can probably mean something in itself, but it hasn't necessarily been a recruiting tool, whereas he's been going by campus, hanging out with the coaches, doing that kind of stuff.
Gotcha. Okay. So there's your update on a huge name in Tyler Atkinson. Let's finish with another big name, Jason. These offensive linemen have been such a discussion. Felix Ojo leading the discussion in many ways. So we talked about it over the last couple weeks. There was an Oklahoma visit. That did not happen, but he did make a visit last weekend. Kind of a surprise for some people. Update us on where he went, how it went, and does Texas need to be worried about a certain, what are they now? Big 12 packed? Oh, no, they're still packed. No, there's no pack. No. What is Utah now? The Big 12, right?
I think they're Big 12. Yeah.
Do they need to be worried about a Big 12 school?
They don't. They do not, actually. He did visit Utah last weekend, kind of a late development. He said, hey, I've got a lot of former teammates and friends that are on that Utah team. They talked him into going to give it a look. You remember, he visited Colorado early on, right? Mm-hmm. And he came back and was like, I love the mountains. That was awesome. But he goes, yeah, Colorado's out. Well, it's kind of the same with Utah. He loved the scenery. And Felix is great, dude. He's got a great personality. But he goes, yeah, it was beautiful up there. Salt Lake City was amazing. But I said, Felix, come on, man. You and I have been talking a lot. Do I need to be writing about Utah? Are they really a threat? And he's like, nah, not really, man. So it's going to be Texas or Ohio State. He and I had a nice kind of candid conversation today. I don't want to get too deep into it because it's kind of off the record a little bit, but I think Texas is in a good spot there. He did tell me last week, hey, Texas is his leader. So unless something changed, I don't know what would have changed between was it Tuesday or Wednesday when I talked to him to when I talked to him this week, he went to Utah. So it's not like he went to Ohio State and they made a sudden move. In talking to Felix, I think he's going to have NIL opportunities, obviously, right? I think they're pretty comparable at Texas and Ohio State. So add the pieces together, Chad. I just think it looks really good for Texas, for Felix. He's going to announce sometime soon. He does not have a firm date. So it's probably going to be sometime, I'd say the first couple weeks of July. And please, Felix, if you're watching this, do me a favor. Do it the first couple weeks of July because I'm taking my family to Port Aransas July 22nd. I don't want to be covering your commitment from Port Aransas. But
Felix, not the 4th. If it's the 4th, like early in the morning.
I'll take the 4th even over when I'm down on the beach on vacation.
When you're in the beach,
so,
okay.
Yeah, so I'm already know I'm going to be working on the 4th, Chad. So what's one more commitment, right? So
yeah, that's true because you got to deal with what am I seeing here? Caden Finley, Turntine, and Bryce Perry, right? All on the 4th.
Yeah, those are all the 3 scheduled for the 4th, and then it was Jalen Lott, but he's pushed his back in a couple days. So but I expect Felix to kind of hammer out a decision dates pretty soon. I think Texas looks really good there, and then suddenly, dude, if that happens. I mean, if the Tyler Atkinson thing comes to fruition, which, I'm kind of doing a little bit of projecting there, but if that happens, boy, then you're talking about 3 5-stars and counting possibly for Texas. Yeah. Then you're talking about challenging. I don't know. USC's got such a stranglehold on that number 1 class right now because they have so many commitments. Texas A&M's doing a really good job, but, Texas is going to be right there if these things come to fruition again, like I think they might. Then you're talking about Texas looking at another top 5, top 3. Could they get to number 1? Again, USC, I think, might be tough to beat, but hey, that's what we were saying this time last year. Remember, I think we had this conversation. I said, nobody's catching Ohio State because they had such a lead. I said it would take like Ohio State having to guys peel off. Texas would have to land guys. Well, that's exactly what happened. Texas winds up with the number 1 class in the country. So, why in the heck would you ever doubt this Texas staff after what they've been able to do these last few recruiting cycles?
Yeah, and just from the stuff last weekend, Texas, if you care about the rankings, gets up into the top 15 already of the Rivals rankings, I think at 13 last time I checked it. So you keep that in mind. Speaking of last weekend, Jason, we started talking about Wesley. Let's bookend it with another big defensive lineman because Vodney Cleveland, who we talked about a little bit, I know last couple weeks, he comes in for a visit. We knew he was going to announce, I think, a commitment right on Sunday. Or maybe it was Saturday as he was, coming in for the weekend. I know you felt really good about it. And then he ends up committing to Texas. So tell us a little more about Cleveland. In talking to Jeff Ketchum, of course, of Orange Bloods, he said he loves the film and he thinks the ranking couldn't continue to rise. Just how good of a get is this for Texas?
Yeah, he visited 2 weekends ago, but he committed on Saturday when all these other guys were on campus. He was back home, but he's another guy who moved his commitment date up. He's from Alabama, but they weren't really in the race there that much. But I'm trying to see what does Rivals have him ranked? I'm sorry, I don't have him pulled up. But another big interior defensive line out of Birmingham, Alabama. He's a Rivals 250 guy. 4-star guy, Rivals 250 guy, number 5 defensive tackle in the country. So, Texas, I tell you what, they're doing a really good job of. None of these D tackles are going back, but it's been a while since Texas. Well, they're not Justice Terry or they're not Malcolm Brown from Brenham, who was a bona fide 5-star. But what they're doing is they're taking a lot of these really good players that have a pretty high hit rate. Okay. And that's what they hadn't been doing before Kenny Baker got here. They would take sometimes large numbers of interior defensive linemen, but they weren't the guys that had the highest rate of success. So you've got to just throw numbers at these positions like defensive tackle. If you take 4, like we're thinking Texas is going to do in this class, maybe 5. But if they take 4, you're hoping 2 of them pan out, and then maybe 2 of them don't. But so I think they're doing a really good job. Kenny Baker's doing a fantastic job of taking these guys that they're probably not all going to hit, but there's a good chance that a couple, who knows, maybe 3 of them hit. And then you get out of this cycle that Texas has found itself in the last 2 years in the portal, where they're having to take 3, 4, 5 defensive tackles out of the portal. That's okay to do that 1 year, maybe 2, but you don't want to make a living off of that. You want to make a living off of taking high-end prospects out of the high school ranks. You have them for 2, 3, 4 years, and then you just keep that wheel turning. That's what Kenny Baker is starting to set up. He got another good one in Vodney Cleveland.
Yep. So 2 big defensive line gets for Texas. Wesley being the bigger of the 2, but we definitely wanted to mention Vodney Cleveland as well at the D tackle position out of, as Jason said, the state of Alabama. All right, Jason, we covered a lot of ground. Any other names we need to throw out before we wrap up?
No, just stay on orangebloods.com. I posted the 3-2-1. I've actually got updates from some other guys at the check-in from the Rivals 5-star, the Rivals 5-star camp. It's an active week. Listen, I know it's dead period and official visit weekend is over, but it's an active first half of this week. And then we got commitments coming up scheduled for Friday, and they just kind of roll on through. So just stay on orangebloods.com. We'll have you covered. Like Chad always leads off, recruiting never stops. Now we are officially in commitment season.
That's it. Now, Jason, did I hear was the rumor correct that once Dia Bell had that big necklace around his neck from the Elite 11, he is not going to be making it to Indianapolis? He's got a couple other things to take care of.
Yeah, Dia did not come in. Neither did Caden Finley. And this happens every year. You have guys, especially this year. I mean, these guys are taking official visits. Well, Dia went to Elite 11. Then he went straight to Austin, took his official visit, which ended Sunday. And then he was supposed to fly to Indianapolis on Monday. Well, that didn't happen. He canceled. But again, Dia has nothing to prove. He won the MVP at Elite 11. And frankly, man, he's been traveling a lot. He's gone to 7-on-7 tournaments up in Dallas. He was out in Cali. He's been to Austin multiple times. So I don't blame Dia. I'd have loved to see him up here just because I love Dia and I love his dad. Roz was awesome. I'd love to catch up with him. But I don't blame him one bit for saying, you know what, I'm going to take a few days to myself and put my feet up on the couch. Knowing Dia, he's probably back home in Florida working out. But if I'm Dia, I'm like, I'm gonna put my feet up on the couch and just binge watch some movies or something, So.
Yeah, well, the way I liken it, Jason, to kind of the old day, maybe it's the way it is now too, but it almost felt like a golfer to me that's been busting his ass and he gets to a major and he had a busy schedule planned, but he wins the major and then thinks, you know what, let me just take next week off. Let me take a breath here. And that felt like maybe what Dia Bell's doing, but he looked great at Elite 11. First Texas quarterback ever to win the MVP at the Elite 11. Let that sink in. Just say that to yourself, Texas fans, over and over again. That's the guy that's probably going to follow Arch Manning. That's crazy.
Maybe, but they got a couple other good quarterbacks in front of him. He's going to have to earn it. Yeah,
they do. That's true. Right now, Trey Owens and KJ Lacey are both waving their arms, right? Yeah. What about me?
Slow down, Chad. Slow down.
That's right. Slow your roll. Slow. That necklace does not throw balls. I know, but it's really impressive. It's huge. It's like that. Have you seen it? It's massive. All right. I think that'll wrap us up for the recruiting hour this week. Again, Jason is in Indianapolis covering things this week. So be on the lookout for all the information coming out. Of course, we debut the recruiting hour Wednesdays at 10 a.m. If you're watching us in that 10 o'clock hour, we appreciate you. Whenever you're checking it out, we do appreciate that. Remember, Thursday nights is War Room night. You get all the great content at orangebloods.com, and Jason will get you the very latest from Indianapolis as this week rolls on and we get towards the weekend. And Jason gets a chance to breathe a little bit, gets a chance to maybe exhale a little bit because
I'm going to be doing some of that couching and binge watching myself this weekend. So yeah,
that's right. And just for the record, Jason, when you say the dead period starts, this takes us all the way through July. Is that true?
Yeah, I believe. Let me get this straight because the calendar. I think it's the last week. Okay, all through July. And then like the last week of August, even through August, the last week of August, it opens up like when college football starts. So recruits can go watch week one games. But yeah, so basically July and pretty much all of August is a dead period.
Yeah. And when we say dead period, that just means the school visits cannot happen.
No face-to-face contact anywhere. So you're not going to have any pool parties. You're not going to have obviously unofficial visits or those types of things. They can still talk to recruits. They can still FaceTime recruits or whatever they want.
I was going to say face-to-face, not okay. FaceTime.
Well, you know what?
Happening.
I think, I should double check that. I know that was the case a couple of years ago, but these rules are always changing. So maybe they circumvented that, or maybe they self-corrected that. But they can certainly still talk on the phone, send messages, do those, on Twitter, DM, those types of things. So recruiting won't stop just because it's a dead period. Just no face-to-face contact, usually meaning like on campus.
Yeah, my tagline works for the dead period too.
Sure
Recruiting
does.
never stops.
No, it absolutely does. Yeah.
Face-to-face might stop for a little while, but the recruiting part never stops. And as always, we appreciate you guys checking it out. Shout out again to Longhorn Wealth Management Group for being our great sponsor for the Recruiting Hour. And again, we debut Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Check us out next week. I'll actually be out next week, but Jason's going to figure something out. Jeff Ketchum may have to jump in. We'll get it figured out. But whatever's going on in recruiting, you know you're going to hear about it right here on the Recruiting Hour. Thank you for checking out Orange Bloods Live. Check out all the great content. Check out orangebloods.com. We do appreciate your support. Until next time, y'all take care. It's Orange Bloods Live. Recruiting never stops. See ya.